I was in a wheelchair for 11 and a half years, and now I walk. And the doctors didn't think that I would be able to walk because I started falling down and then I couldn't walk. And if I'll take a few steps and then I'd fall. And they said it was neurological because of the all the illnesses that was in my body. And but I decided that I was not going to be a patient for the rest of my life. And after my last episode, which was in 2013, I was in a wheelchair and I said, no, yeah, this is what is happening to me. It is not me.
Through her lived experience of illness, grief, rejection, and healing, she's become a confidant, she's become a counselor, and she is a source of inspiration, rather, for a lot of people. This conversation is about what it means to live in defiance of the odds, to find your voice through suffering, and to hold space for light, even in the darkest places. So please welcome to the show, Cyndee Dhalai. Thank you, Cyndee, so much for joining me today and also for sharing a part of your life, which must be very difficult for you, but it's something that you've actually overcome. So thank you. I really appreciate you wanting to open up on this very podcast.
Thank you very much, Paya.
Okay, Cyndee, so you've been called a living miracle. You've been called a medical enigma. When you hear those words, what comes to your mind?
I'm just ordinary. And sometimes you're blessed with things that in ways that you never expect. And that life is not something that you can control. And that often you do get chances and you do see miracles happening that when you least expect them.
Yeah, that is so true. So, can you take us back to when your body first started to shut down? It may be difficult or not for you to talk about it, but for me to ask you this question was a little difficult. But
I know, yeah.
I'd like you to
Mm.
talk about it. That period of your life, how it was for you both mentally as well as emotionally.
To be quite frank, apparently I started having these symptoms, but they were isolated in that I would fall down or I would get ill, my body would get ill, and then like the doctors didn't put it all together until it started getting really bad. And then they said, okay, I should go see a rheumatologist to find out what was happening, especially as I had to start walking with a cane and I was a teacher. So to go up steps was difficult. And I went, and it took about a year of diagnosis of back and forth and test and a lot of stuff. And then they found out that that even testing me, I would get like blood toxemia, in that when the needle went into my skin, it'll get a big black bruise around my hand and it would take very long. And finally, they said they did about 2 or 3 tests and then they came back. And my rheumatologist he was a bit reluctant first. And then I said, listen, enough of this, just tell me. So we did a test again and they said, okay, I have lupus. But he didn't want to confirm it. And then he referred me. Now I can be very insistent in that, listen, it's either this or it's not this. And he referred me to another specialist and he said, Cyndee, you have lupus. And I was like, okay. And then along
Just
with that,
like
they
that.
came,
You just said,
yeah,
okay, that was it.
yeah. I just said, okay, because I can't do anything about it. And the way my mind operates is that things happen in life that you can not control. And things happening in my body is not something I could have controlled. And every day people are born with illnesses. When a baby is born, they don't ask to be sick. They don't ask for these things. It appears in your body. And you just have to know that things happen. And not everything in life you can control. Yes, you can monitor things that happen in your life, but you can't control it. And I couldn't control what was happening in my body. And lupus is something that is unknown, basically, because you can treat it. Some people can get treatment and kind of control it, but you can't control the flares. And along with that, they diagnosed me with a lot of other things in my body. And after that, it kind of went into the spiral where I lost 4 years of my life in a fog. As my body got ill, my body was present, but I wasn't here in a sense, in that I wasn't aware of what's happening. And like most I would know about it was what my husband and my children told me, or what I read in the medical report, because I don't remember a lot of stuff. Like after I flatline, I would have a brief flash of like clarity where I knew, and then my body would just take
So
over
can you
and go into the spiral.
sorry, Cyndee. So when you say you flatlined, what exactly do you mean? And I read that you said that you flatlined multiple times. So what exactly does it mean when you say you flatlined?
Okay, when you flatline, it means that you don't have a heartbeat. And when you look on movies and they have to resuscitate someone and you just see the monitor going, flatline is when you,
Yeah. Yeah,
and technically you die.
I wasn't sure whether you were saying it in that context or because you
Yeah,
mentioned
that
earlier
was
that
flatlining.
you you used to get 4 years, you were in a brain fog. So I got a bit, I wasn't sure, but thank you
Yeah,
for clarifying. So you actually flatlined multiple times.
a few. Yeah, I did actually, because I have an allergy to like all drugs, every medical drug, even Panadol. I have an allergy to all those drugs. My body doesn't like it, I should say. And I had gone away to get confirmed, and they said, okay, you have lupus, you have all these other things in your body. And there was a new drug that came out called Plaquenil. So when we came back to Trinidad, they said they're going to try it, but they're going to do it like in a controlled environment, an ICU. And that's the last thing I remember, what like coherently about being ill, or my body got ill, was that we went in and they did a test, and I had a reaction. And then the second time we went in to do it, and I was feeling, we were supposed to be in the ICU, but I wanted to go outside because I didn't like being in a closeted room. And to me, it was like, okay, fine. And we went outside, and then the doctor, who was one of the specialists who was looking after me, he came in, and we were in the waiting room because I like open spaces. We were talking, and then he said, Cyndee, we have to go back to the ICU. And I was like, no, I'm good, whatever. Because they had just given me the tablet, the Plaquenil to take. And they said by the time I got back to the ICU, I just flatlined. And he had to pull off his glove and tighten my hand and try to put in stuff and administer stuff and things. And then they resuscitated me, and I was out for 24 and a half hours. And they weren't sure what was going on with me, because I was basically was like in a sort of coma.
So, how did you actually, because you've mentioned that you're allergic to all medications.
Mm.
So how did you find your way back without any medical intervention?
I don't know. I tell everybody I live by God's grace, to be honest, because there is no medical reason why I should be moving about, or I should be able to do the things I do. I climb trees, I can run, I look after myself. I was in a wheelchair for 11 and a half years, and now I walk. And the doctors didn't think that I would be able to walk, because I started falling down, and then I couldn't walk. And if I'll take a few steps and then I'd fall. And they said it was neurological because of the all the illnesses that was in my body. And but I decided that I was not going to be a patient for the rest of my life. And after my last episode, which was in 2013, I was in a wheelchair, and I said, no, yeah, this is what is happening to me. It is not me. And I did everything in a wheelchair. I learned to move about, and I cooked and I cleaned up and I did stuff. And okay, there was stuff I couldn't do because I couldn't drive, and I love driving, but I did everything else. And to me, it was like, okay, yeah, okay, I lost something, but I gained something else. I gained more time with myself and to think about things and to be more present for everybody else. Because sometimes when you're in a rush, and I was a teacher, I had two children, I had a husband, I had a home, I had things to look after. You're always in a rush and you're rushing back and forth, and you don't have time to really. And sometimes you give people attention, but you give them like a half measure of attention. You don't ever, you're listening, but you're thinking about what else I have to do. So this way, I was able to concentrate more and I guess appreciate more because I understood, to me especially, how frail life was and how important every moment was. And having the ability to do things, I may not be able to walk, I may not be able to do a lot of things, and my body had a way of fighting itself, but I was still here.
And so how and when did you start walking again? Like when did you get off the wheelchair and how did that happen?
My husband died in December, Christmas Eve 2021. And that was hard. That was really hard. And
How long were you together? I'm sorry to hear that, but how long?
33 and a half years. 33 and a half years. We were together for 33 and a half years. And we did everything together because we built a home together and we had children. And then I didn't want to be a burden to my children because they have their own lives. They both grown up, they're married and stuff. And I said, I do not want to be a burden and I don't want to be someone who, I don't like people looking after me, I should say, in a sense, in that want, I don't like people at my beck and call because that's never been me. I would prefer to support you than for you to support me. And to put it simply, because that's me. And I remember I did try to walk and stuff, but after a few steps, I'd fall. And then there's always a danger if I fell and I damaged something, if I broke a leg, and my family would always quarrel with me because of that, because it's if I damage myself, I can't get treatment. And I remember I was just there and I was so tired and I said, you know what, Lord, I don't know what to do. I can't heal myself and I don't want to be a burden to anybody. So you have to help me. And that was it. And it may sound presumptuous, but that was me. I said, listen, I can't do this for myself. I can't cure my body. It's up to you to help me. And then I started using the walker and stuff like that. And little by little, and then I started using the cane and it happened.
Amazing.
And I said, no, every day I'm going to do this. I don't care. I am going to do this. And I am not going to be, because if they said physically my body was okay and it's a neurological thing, then I can get into my head and with God's help, I can do this. Now, I'm not religious in this fact that I don't ascribe to one set religion and that I grew up Hindu, but I got a bad experience with that and throughout my life. But I know that there is a higher being and I am very spiritual.
So that's what I wanted to ask you, that your journey, what exactly has it taught you about the connection between the body and the spirit?
We are a physical being because we inhabit a physical body. Remember, depending on which religion or which teaching you ascribe to, I think most people believe that we all possess a spirit that we are endowed with when we are born. And that's not something that we can see, it's intangible, but it's what sustains us. Our spirit is part of our divine connection. Because remember, we don't know how we breathe. Yeah, we have everything, but what tells our body to breathe? It's not just the brain, right? Because how does a child know us from the second it's born to take a breath? So we are gifted with this special gift. And our spirit tries to guide us, it sustains us, and it's always there. And when you think about it, it is a form of divine presence at all times with you. Because that's why when you do something and you know to yourself that, okay, this isn't something that I'd normally do, this isn't something I'm comfortable with, it's like your conscience, because that's your spirit telling you, you're not supposed to do this. That is not a right thing. You're going to hurt people, or you know, this people may not see you doing something, but you know to yourself if it's wrong. So our spirit is a part of our connection. It's like a thread, an invisible thread that ties us to our divine, no matter which God you believe in. It's what ties us to the divine. And that is something that is always there for us. And we have to know that through our lives, that as we work and as we move and as we go through experiences, that we can call on our spirit, that we can find help because someone is always with us. It may not be a physical presence, but we have that presence with us. Because sometimes, even when you're suffering something or you think you're in the pit of hell, a heartbreak, or you lost something, a job or whatever, and then you ever wonder why it is that I go down and I go down and I go down and it's so overwhelming. And then there's this one moment when you just switch and you start moving forward, or you start seeing it in a slightly different light. In that moment is when your spirit takes over and your spirit says, okay, you have endured it. This is where your lesson ends. Now it is time for you to see what you can do now, how you can be more you and to become a better person. Because a lot of people think that life is hard. This is how it's going to be. We do this, we do that, and we never win or whatever. But it all has to do with how you look at everything. Because remember, everything you've been through has taught you something. And every time you internalize it and your spirit reaches out to you, in retrospect, you see that it was a lesson because it built something in you. It taught you something. And as you become a better version of yourself, that is your spirit at work. Your spirit and your soul is telling you that this is where you are, this is what we created you to be. Now you have to find it in yourself, because that's why you have dreams. You have to find it in yourself. You have to trust in yourself. You have to trust in your ability. And you also have to trust that you are not here by chance. You are not here on a fluke or to make up numbers. You are here because you have a specific purpose. Maybe it's just to talk to somebody. Maybe it's just to uplift people. Maybe it's just to trim trees. But we all have a purpose. Not all of us are cut out to be or destined to be like great or stuff like that. But we all have a purpose. And when you do think it, take it into yourself, the fact that sometimes in your family you may feel, okay, whether you're a mother or a father, so let's say you're a mother, and you think that all I do is cook and clean, and I guess I work outside and things like that, and my children always have to see, and they always forget this X, Y, and Z. But that is your purpose. Your purpose is in supporting people, and you would realize that in doing what you do, when your children are gone, you actually miss doing all those things for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So resilience is, I think, a very key factor. And that's what you have. You allow, yes, the body and the spirit connection, but you also need to have that inner strength to be able to overcome, whether it's grief or it's physical discomfort, pain, disabilities, whatever it may be. And so I wanted to ask you, like, that a lot of people don't really understand and they don't know how to talk about grief. So, what is something that you and the amount of life experiences that you've had and some of what you've shared with me today, what is something that you would wish more people to understand about, specifically about grief?
Grief is messy. There is no one fit all for everybody. Grief is highly personal. The way you grieve is not the way I grieve. Grief is complex and it is packed with a lot of emotions. And one thing that I have found is that while you may grieve or you may grieve a loss in something specific, it does tend to pull all the tangential things that you suffer when you felt pain. Because when you grieve and you suffer loss, whether it's a breakup in a relationship, whether it's the loss of a job, even if you have to relocate and move to another place, you do suffer grief. People don't think that is, but you do suffer grief and you do suffer loss in that you miss it and you are angry sometimes that you had to move in a certain instance. And when things come, say, I wish I didn't have to move or whatever. But in everything, once there's an absence, that's what people don't understand. Grief and loss has to do with an absence of someone or something, the physical absence of something. And even though the person may be alive, what you're feeling in yourself is the absence of their presence. And when you feel that absence, that goes deep into you and you begin to correlate it to other things that happen in your life. For instance, you suffer a grief and a loss. In my case, it was my husband dying and the loss of someone very close to me who I loved very much also. And when that absence came in, my mind started going on all the other times that I suffered, that I felt pain, or that I felt a loss, or that I felt isolation. Because when you do grieve, even though you have hundreds of people around you, you are isolated in yourself because your grief is personal. And that depends on how deeply connected you are to probably the person or the job or even a pet. Nobody can say your grief is bigger than my grief because I don't know what your connection was. Because sometimes people may lose a pet, like a dog or something, and they're very heartbroken. And then people, it was just a dog. But then they don't know what your connection was, what that dog gave to you, what you felt with that pet or whatever. So I can't minimize or diminish your feelings because that's how you do. And in that absence, then what you find is that you tend, remember, your mind is a library. And every experience you've ever had, every connection you ever had, we store in books. And we have it all put up. We have the books on happy moments, books on hard times, books on when someone did me wrong, books on rejection, books on when I didn't, when my achievements. So you have all these things. So they're all connected. And when you feel your grief on and that loss and that absence and that pain comes in, your mind pulls from all these other books. And you said, yes, I remember when I was isolated because nobody listened to me this time. Or I remembered being all alone when I got criticized and I lost my family and stuff like that and thing. And so you bring all these memories together. So it's like you compound everything together. So grief, you have to see grief not just as, okay, if this happened, I'm going to feel pain. Grief is very real and it's something that stays in you. And there is no real healing from grief. It's more like you learn to manage your grief.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope this is not being a very difficult conversation for you.
No, actually, because like before I even wrote, I had to battle myself with everything that was going on. So I can't speak about it because I have come to realize that many people know grief. They might have accepted it, but they don't acknowledge it to themselves. And sometimes they have no, there is no idea of what exactly they're feeling, or they can't put it into words, because I've had that experience with people who I've spoken to, and they've said, who have my book, and they've said, I can't believe this is exactly how I feel. This is, I just couldn't put it into words. And you put into words exactly the confusion that's going on inside of me and how I feel when other people tell me things or they react to me. And this is really me. It's like you're writing me.
Yeah. You've said that I see the world through my own eyes and it's unusual. Can you describe what your lens looks like?
My lens looks at, there are always many sides to something, and that sometimes every day we get touches of heaven. And the same way you spend a few minutes worrying and complaining, the same way you can spend the next few minutes thinking of what you actually have. Because I could look at something and I could see something different from you. Okay, you see a puddle of water on the ground. There's a hole in the street, rain falls, it gets all muddy, and you don't want to get splashed because you say, oh, that dirty water is going to splash all over me. When I look at a puddle of water, what I see is life. And that hole is you. And as rain comes down, those are your life experiences. Those are the things that happen. Those are the stages you have to go through in life. It might be light rain, and that light rain comes down. And when the rain comes down, it's like that's when you're now starting off in life. Everything is, you're growing and stuff like that. Now, mind you, when the rain comes down, remember it has to pass over the street. And it gathers dirt because there are dirt and there are other things, and it fills in, it goes into the puddle. Now, that outside is your outside world. The things around the puddle is your outside world. And remember, you will get influences. So when all the dirt and stuff comes into the puddle, which is you get influenced by outside factors and you get all muddled inside. Is this right? Is that right? Can I follow my friends? Should I listen to my parents? Should I do this? Should I? So you're all muddled inside. But after, like when you settle in yourself, which is when the rain stops, which is your life experience stops, what do you notice happen to the puddle? The puddle settles and clear water comes to the top. So you at the bottom, you still have some dirt, and that you did get influenced by some things, but that settled inside of you, and you know the clear water is you, and you now can see that there is more good things in life. And again, depending on how the storms come in, those are your life experiences. You might get heavy rain and you might get a lot of dirt coming into you and you get tossed around. But always, when you experience a life and something in life, there is a period of settling where you sort out, which is when the dirt settles in the puddle to the bottom of it. You sort out, okay, these are my life experiences, but the clear water remains on top. The clear water always comes out when your life settles. And that clear water is telling you that there is good things in life, and there are beauty, and there's clarity. That's what I see when I look at a puddle. Now, that's why I said usually I see life differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone sees it differently. You know, you're right. The perception is different depending on
Yeah.
your internal and external experiences. Yeah, no, that
Yes.
I understand that. You've lived through chapters most can't even imagine. From whatever you've told me, also from the start of this conversation, I'm like, I'm still trying to get my head around it. But what is the one thing that you still dream of doing? You've written a book. For you, you always had poems in your head, and you finally put them down and you've actually written those down. You've gone through so many physically painful experiences. You've gone through the loss of your husband. There's absolutely so many different chapters that you have lived through your life up until now. So, what's the one thing that you still dream of doing?
Seriously, I always wanted to travel, and there are like a few countries that I really want to visit. Because when my body got ill, it was kind of like you couldn't do a lot of stuff and things or whatever. I want to keep writing because I love writing. And there are lots of things that are important, and people sometimes sometimes when you read something, you can connect to it, and that can make a difference in your life. Not really influence, but it can affect your thinking. And you can, so that's what I want to do. I want to write and touch people and let them see that there isn't all bad in the world, or that there is much more that they can be, and there are more, they are never less. Because you always have to see yourself as that you are more, you are never less.
Yeah, that's true. So, what is stopping you from traveling? Physically, are you able to?
Oh yeah, it's right now. I have some other things that I'm going on with and stuff like that. So, but I am planning to travel and organize and stuff like that and things.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'm sure you will. You know, talking to you, I've understood the kind of person you are, and I'm sure you've gotten yourself this far. You definitely will travel, and you will make that dream come true as well. So, if people could walk away from this conversation with just one message from you, what would you hope it is?
You should never let your life experiences regulate or others regulate or define what your expectations of life is or who you are. Because I always say this, you are always more, you are never less.
Yeah, that is so true. Thank you, Cyndee. I've really absolutely mesmerized listening to you. And I think you have that ability to, and we're not even talking to each other. You're so far away. You're in a different part of the world to me at the moment.
Yeah. On the other side of the
On the
world,
other side,
yes.
you're in Trinidad, I'm in Singapore. It's morning for you, it's night for me. And but I can still feel that radiance coming out through you. And that is what I'm really extremely grateful for, that I was able to have this conversation with you. Before I let you go, just for people, the listeners and the viewers, to know where your book is available, have you written just the one book, which is called Grief is the Price You Pay for Love, which is such a powerful title. So is this the only book that you've written, or and if there's more than one, then where are your books available and how can
Okay.
people get a hold of them?
I did write a poetry book first. That one is called Pieces of Me Touch My Soul, and that's available on Amazon. That's by Cyndee. And the book, Grief is a Price You Pay for Love, I wrote that under a pseudonym, which is Faye Allian. And it is available on Amazon.com. Both books are available on Amazon.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Cyndee. Thank you, and more power to you is all I can say. And
Thank you very much.
and you have a wonderful day.